How's it going, everybody? In today's video, we're going to talk about the interview heard round the world. Lex Fridman had on Todd Howard, the man, the myth, the legend. I was only barely aware that Lex Fridman had a podcast at this point. I remember seeing him on Joe Rogan a few years back, but I hadn't really thought much about him since. Overall, I don't think he's quite as charismatic as Joe. The interview was kind of awkward. He seemed to have a very set schedule and a way of thinking about things. For the most part, it was good, but there were some weird moments where it kind of felt like he was just kind of trying to change the subject. But we all have to be grateful because this is the most we've gotten out of Todd in a long time. Maybe ever. And it really helped understand his thought process. I feel like he was being a lot more open and honest about like his entire perspective on video games when he was talking to Lex. One thing people have brought up before, in a podcast format, you know, you're sitting there for hours. Anybody can like PR BS in a 10-minute little segment, but the longer you sit there and talk, the more likely you are to tell the truth. And I think we got a lot of truth out of Todd. There were some moments where it really encouraged me and made me like really happy that he's working on these games. And then there were some moments where I was really concerned about the kind of stuff that Todd seems to actually enjoy and how he may actually be one of the big problems with the industry itself. Now, I've seen a bunch of people cover this interview already, and because I got like a full-time job and the holidays are on, I haven't really had time to really work on this video for a bit. So it's probably coming out a bit later than most people's. But what I haven't seen anybody really bring up is just the smaller details that kind of formulate what kind of things Todd might be working on. Like, for instance, he kind of dropped a bombshell at the fact that they're working on a new mobile game. That's something we haven't heard about. And, you know, people have mixed opinions on mobile games in general. And Bethesda's track record is kind of hit or miss. You know, a lot of people really enjoyed Fallout Shelter, and there's a lot of good in Fallout Shelter. I recently went back to it with the whole 25th anniversary. You know, hopped in for a few weeks, played it until I got to the point where I started feeling bored again. But then there's Elder Scrolls Blades, which was supposed to be its own little thing, and I haven't heard anything about it in years. I do remember playing a little bit of it, but it felt very bare bones. Almost like an Infinity Blade from back in the day a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like they completely just dropped it altogether. So what could this new mobile game project be? Well, I think Todd kind of let slip a few details about it, even if not intentionally and very cleverly. Todd mentioned multiple times that he's a big fan of games like Hearthstone and said his favorite game this year is actually Marvel Snap, both of which are card games. So, much to my chagrin, I think we're probably going to get a Bethesda mobile card game. In fact, to speculate even further, I would go as far to say that maybe this is being designed to be released in parallel with Starfield, similar to how Fallout Shelter released alongside Fallout 4. I feel like that's what they could be lining up and may have been part of the reason for the delay. For the record, I have no inside information on this. It's purely speculation based on reading between the lines with some of the things that Todd said during the interview. But if I wind up being right, I demand that I reach 1,000 subscribers before Starfield releases. Focusing more on the actual interview though, it was kind of interesting. Lex kind of tried to sell himself as a Bethesda fanboy, but it's very clear that he hasn't played anything recent. I think it's possible that he actually played Fallout 3 and maybe New Vegas and Skyrim, which is kind of a weird time frame because despite being about 9 years older than me, It seems like Lex and I both entered Bethesda's atmosphere around the same period and have the same favorite games. The only difference being he went off to do like goofy, unimportant stuff like becoming a specialist in AI and computer science, while I did virtually nothing. There's even like a very weird part where Todd kind of like asked Lex if he had played Skyrim with the updated survival mode and the Creation Club stuff. And I don't know if like he edited the interview at this point or what, but it just looks like Lex just straight up ignores Todd. Like, completely ignores. I'm actually going to put that little segment right here of the video just so you can see what I'm talking about. Should be fair use.
But I'm not sure if that's the same experience for everybody.
Do you play the survival mode? There's a survival mode in Skyrim. There's a Creation Club thing. It does like some hunger. It does hot and cold. It does some other systems that make it, you know, in our minds, a little more believable. It was actually a Creation Club thing made by an external creator who is now full-time with us.
So can we actually, thinking about Starfield, thinking about Elder Scrolls 6, go through the full life of a video game you've created?
See what I'm talking about? I mean, he just like completely changed the subject on Todd. He was asking him had he played survival. So that was kind of awkward and weird. But for the most part, the interview was pretty good. There was one thing that was a little frustrating as somebody who has played a lot of Bethesda games. Most of us all know that one of the most frustrating things in a Bethesda game is the AI. Which is kind of ironic to be talking to Lex of all people. And the frustrating part about this interview is early on in the interview, Lex and Todd are talking about AI and how if the AI is too smart, that the game isn't fun. So Todd is basically telling us this whole time Bethesda's had the capability of making AI that's not dumb as a box of hammers, but they think that it's actually better that they don't make the AI intelligent, because then the game wouldn't be nearly as fun. I don't know about that, Todd. Well, yeah, most Bethesda players have developed a community around making jokes about all of the problems with Bethesda's AI, like in Fallout 4, where the AI keeps clipping through the stupid prefabricated buildings and all the settlers wind up on the roofs of the buildings trapped so they can't actually do anything useful, which still happens today, which almost makes settlement building not worth it. Or how many times all of us have probably been through where Lydia is blocking our path and we can't get past her because she won't frickin' move out of the way. But yeah, Todd, it wouldn't be any fun if the AI wasn't complete morons. I mean, for the most part, the enemy AI is fine and all, but I wish they really could have, like, built up the more friendly AI to make the game feel a little more enjoyable, as he puts it. But yeah, that's about all I got to say on the interview so far. I found it really interesting, and I would like to see more of Todd talking about this kind of stuff. Oh, I almost forgot. Todd buys Madden every year. I get it if he has friends that develop the game, but come on, Todd. It's the same game every year. Stop buying Madden, stop buying FIFA. What are you doing? You buying all the DLC too? Is Todd Howard a whale? He is literally the problem with the gaming industry. And we wonder why the guy who invented horse armor is making multiplayer games and mobile games instead of giving us our single player experience that we want. Because he can't sell it as much. He knows he can't. Between how much he plays these games like Madden and FIFA and all these sports games that are very egregious about just using like the same assets over and over and over, and his love of mobile card games and how horrible the monetization is on stuff like that. It's no wonder that we've seen Bethesda fall from grace as a studio over the years. I'm personally actually a fan that has a lot of hope for Elder Scrolls 6 and for Starfield. But the interview did some things to basically give me more concerns. Like, if I was an investor in Microsoft, this would be a great thing, I guess. I would see this as, oh, okay, Bethesda's being run by somebody who actually knows how to make money in the industry. But as a fan of Bethesda games, this is very concerning. I don't know. I remember early days, Starfield was talking about, they kind of like teased that there was going to be multiplayer. Not outright, but they said there would be social elements, whatever that's supposed to mean. Maybe originally they had kind of like a Dark Souls kind of like pop in, pop out of other people's worlds kind of idea. But I think Fallout 76 has kind of proven that Bethesda proper doesn't really have the capabilities with their current engine to really pull that off. But I mean, Starfield is also supposed to be the first time that Bethesda's engine has been able to use vehicles in any meaningful way, aside from modders, and that has mixed results. So I'm really hoping that we actually get more streamlined, choice-focused RPGs for Bethesda, and they kind of go back to the roots like they talk about doing with Starfield. But it kind of seems like I'd always had this impression of Todd that like he was into the old school RPGs, that's what he cared about. But it seems like maybe his own taste for games have evolved with the industry itself, wherever the money is, Maybe I'm wrong. Share your comments down below, like and subscribe.